I'm thinking I'm back.
I guess the best place to start is the overall response and the reception to the film, and specifically the performance. I mean, obviously, you were saying you just kind of hung out and took it easy, which I imagine must have been nice after just like nonstop press. But I mean, that's got to be insane. This is like the biggest opening for the franchise, and like a film like this. I don't know. I think that's really cool to me.
It's pretty crazy. Not gonna lie to you, it's a little surreal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Keanu and I still see it as kind of this little low budget action franchise that are like love letters to all the stuff we like.
Yeah.
We stay pretty insular, you know. In my little place, we have offices in Manhattan Beach, and then we have our stunt training facility up the road a little bit. They're less movies and more like love letters for us. They're just, you know, you see the next room where you see the list of everything we love and all the pictures and all the people we want to work with and the people we want to go. I mean, it's a long list.
Yeah.
We're always more engaged about, you know, stuff we still want to try, stuff we still want to do. And, you know, we're very fortunate to have found the shell or the packaging of John Wick to put all those things into. But I guess when it happens and it responds, it's like, you know, like look at all the posters in the background there. Like there isn't one of those I don't dig.
Yeah.
I mean, so when you do something you really love and you try to put it out there and you get all these other people that, I mean, I don't know if they're really loving what we do, but they're loving what we're trying to emulate. They're loving what we're drawing from. So we're kind of all in it together, right?
Yeah.
Just us coming up with something new. It's taking things that everyone loves and kind of, you know, being subversive and trying to give you that nostalgic effect at the same time, trying to put a spin on it that maybe makes you go, oh, I haven't seen it. Oh, purple. Oh my God, they did ninjas in purple. This is great.
Yeah.
Ninjas in motorcycles. Well, I don't think you see a lot of that because it takes a little bit of work and it takes a lot of love to genre mash and hit the sweet spot and control tone and pace. Like, look, it's not easy.
Yeah.
But I think if you keep doing what you love and you put the hard work in, you know, maybe hopefully you get a product that other people go, oh, I like that too.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that was like the big thing to me. What's always stuck out to me about these films, not just Chapter 4, although Chapter 4 is legitimately on another level, but it's just like they're action movies about action, which, you know, for a genre that is like, you know, spans basically since the birth of cinema, it feels like that's something that's been largely lost. Like a lot of action films, I think, try to get too slick with the plotting. And it's not like you guys don't have a story. There is a very present through line.
No, I mean, to your point, we're very self-aware.
Yeah.
Look, like, you know, it's funny. Keanu and I read like every critique. You know, we read everything just because it's like research for us. I don't take it too personal or anything, but it's like if you get too wrapped up in plot, you get an over expositional movie. You don't have enough plot, and you're a simpleton.
Yeah.
Like, look, just because we don't talk a lot or the character's not this Shakespearean expositional, you know, guy on a soapbox thing doesn't mean there's not a story there. We just try to keep it simple so we don't overcomplicate. It's more about the character's journey.
Yeah.
Plot. Like plot to us is all right. Plot is the death of a lot of action movies. Like, of course there has to be one, but like story, it's about the adventure. It's like we structure all the John Wicks, you know, literally after like Odysseus, you know, in mythology. Like it's not so much the Odysseus wants to get home. That's the plot. The story is all the great adventures he has on the way home.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, you know, to your point, we're making an action movie about action movies. That's the bottom line. Like, yes, I love silent film, not just enjoy it, I love it. I think nonverbal communication and gestures and, you know, show, don't tell are great things that they hit on. To your point, I think when you don't know, like, we know what we are. We're very self-aware. We know we're supposed to be this hyper real, goofy action movie that's incredibly extreme. We know 800 people at a nightclub aren't looking at the gunfight. We do that on purpose. We know that there's no police in we know that.
Yeah.
We're doing it so we can expand the boundaries of it. You know, it's funny. You can go in Lord of the Rings. You can chop off as many orc heads as you want. There's no sheriffs there.
Yeah, right.
you can go to Star Wars and you can blow up a planet and there's nobody out looking for you. Like, you know, in all our, and I consider us a fantasy film. We're a modern day Lord of the Rings or a Dune or a Star Wars. Instead of swords and lightsabers, we have pistols and Genesis 12 shotguns with dragon's breath. I get it.
Yeah, well, and that just gets me curious about like a lot of your inspirations, like just for like not just for, but like for the franchise in general. Because I know you're a big Sergio Leone fan, and I see a lot of Good, Bad, and the Ugly in you know, Chapter 4, a little bit of Barry Lyndon with The Duel, and you know, a bunch of other stuff like that. So like when you're working on this with with Keanu and your writing team, are you like looking at other stuff from other movies, not just action movies, but just other movies, and trying to figure out like, okay, what's our version of that? How can we bring that to the table here?
You know, it's a little of both. It's a really weird. We have a constant like the way I choreograph is we have ideas. We lock. I've driven I think maybe a dozen stunt teams crazy over my career. I choreograph even as we're shooting. I keep redoing it. So much of what I do is reactionary to locations, to my cast. Like until you like when I know I have Donnie Yen, I'm gonna rewrite that character for Donnie Yen. We're gonna make it cool. We're gonna do like, you know, if it was someone else playing that part, I'd write to them.
Yeah.
You know, when I knew Lawrence Fishburne, like we didn't have a Bowery King in the same. That wasn't even the same. When I knew Lawrence and Keanu had bumped into each other, and Lawrence goes, "Put me in, coach. I'd love to be part of it." Right? Keanu gave me the call from New York. I was like, "Are you kidding?" Like literally stuck in my heart. I'm like, Lawrence wants to be in one of our little movies. Keanu's like, "Yep." I'm like, "Stand by. We got the writers," and we wrote that part like of you know, ideas that I have, but we wrote that, and look where it's come. You know.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, the Warriors reference in John Wick 4 was not in the script, not in any of the scripts. I love music, and I just picturing the movie in my head.
Yeah.
Like, how do I get more needle drops in this thing? Because we're such an orchestrated film.
Yeah.
And I kept telling me and my writer Mike Finch kept working, going, yeah, it's like the Warriors. We got to get it. Let's miss it. We just look at each other like, we'll just put the DJ in, and that's how we'll get information. We're like, fuck, that took fucking way too long to figure out.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
sometimes we think of it, sometimes it's retroactive. Sometimes like I'll be doing the rules of the duel in front of the Eiffel Tower, and you know, I'm getting that. It's just we're almost time ready to shoot, and I get there early on the blocking day. I'm like, you know, Barry Lyndon is a favorite film, so I'm gonna do a portrait. I'm gonna have Ian stand here, and we start, you know, because you don't know you have the Eiffel Tower till you're standing there with the Eiffel Tower.
Right.
Make this portrait, this Renaissance painting. So I told my cast, okay, everybody get comfortable because no one's moving for this scene. So sometimes it's inspirational, sometimes it's with, you know, premonition or premeditation.
Yeah, for sure. Well, you mentioned music, which I know is like, it's a big part of it, at least from just like stuff that I've read and you know, you've spoken about. I know it's a big part of your process, and it's also a big part of these films. And I mean, it's even to the point where like I hear that guitar riff from Tyler Bates, and I'm immediately like, oh, John Wick. So I'm just kind of curious about like how you work either with Tyler or the rest of the music department, and like how much of a role that plays into shaping the identity of these movies.
Huge. Like my editing team, Nate Orloff, Nick, Allie, my assistant editors, Steve, like my whole little editing team there. Like we don't edit without music. We go mental on temp.
Yeah.
We'll rip off stems and other tracks from the other John Wick movies, or from, you know, Dune, or for like atmospheric stuff, or from like Japanese Ghost in the Shell or Akira.
Yeah.
We'll try to find ethereal stuff. Like I knew I wanted to be in the realm of God. So you hear we do a lot with choir and children's choir in this one. That's always the background vocals. You know, as I'm writing or as I'm kind of piecing sequences together, I'll listen to like the soundtrack to Ghost in the Shell or Dune, or, you know, John Williams. I did listen to a lot of Vivaldi and classical stuff. I don't know how you could edit and get your vision or your feeling across if you don't have all the elements: visual, sound, color, light. Like you gotta constantly update yourself every week. And a big part of that, like if you don't believe it, like watch anything by yourself, that's gonna be one reaction. You watch the same exact movie in a theater of 500 people, you will have a different experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you watch that movie with the volume down and then you watch that movie with the volume up, you're going to have a very different experience. The one that counts is the synergy of all of it.
Yeah.
You got to be cutting, you got to be writing, you got to be thinking about it with the sounds, at least in mind. You don't have to nail it, but it should be putting you in a place.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that takes me back to the first film. I really liked how you used killing strangers in that film. I mean, it sort of was like, it kind of informed the ethos of the character. And to my understanding, the nature of that song was like a bit satirical and sarcastic and some of that stuff. And so I was kind of curious about your including of that in the film. And
we were fans of Marilyn Manson at the time we were working on John Wick, and we really that's how we met Tyler. I met Tyler Bates through Marilyn Manson.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Manson first, because we knew he was interested in some soundtrack stuff. Contacted me. He's like, well, I'd love to do something for you guys, but I'm not a composer. You should meet Tyler Bates, who's producing his latest album at the time. We met Tyler, and, you know, Tyler and I had bumped into each other when I was working on 300 way back when with Zack Snyder. And, you know, big fan of his work on that. And we're like, okay, let's do this. Tyler saw the rough cut and was like, I'm in. How do we, and we explained what we wanted to make of him. And Tyler's very notable for creating this otherworldly kind of sound and vibe with the way he electronicized classical music instruments. And then we had cut the scene with Willem Dafoe and Michael Nyquist in that, and with Keanu, and we're intercutting. And Tyler just said, "Look, man, I know what you guys are going for, but like, you want everybody to be in on the joke, right?" And we're like, "Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna do one needle drop in this thing, it's gonna be." It's gotta be kind of badass, but it's kind of also gotta let people know, like, we're kind of, it's like the Bugs Bunny cartoon. We're in on it. So let's,
Yeah.
without going want wah, how are we gonna do this?
No, I mean, that was the thing that immediately struck me, because I hadn't rewatched the first film in a while. And I was going back and I was like, oh, this is a level of self-awareness I think I may have missed like the first go around, just because I was like,
it's funny. We're pretty self-aware.
Yeah, oh, that's awesome. I'm glad that was like part of the process.
We're almost doing it as a dare at that point. We're like, come on. We literally were joking. No one's ever going to see this movie, so let's mess with people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, now it's bite me in the ass on all the interviews.
Yeah, right. That's funny. Yeah. Well, I guess I'm curious, like, for this, as the franchise has sort of evolved, and you it started off as just like a collaboration. I mean, it's always been a collaboration among friends, but as a sort of taken on this more mythic life. I guess what parts have you just like found yourself like, you're thinking about these movies, you're writing them. How much of like your own experiences kind of like find their way into the movies, or is it like you said, is it not necessarily about that and more so about like, just like jamming on something with friends, right?
No, I think it's weird. I think they're kind of more of a crossover. What I mean by that is there's really nothing in the movie that's not either me or Keanu.
Yeah.
Like, God, I'm spilling the beans. But we literally just make this ginormous whiteboard we have in the next room. We list out, like, if you walk in there, you'll see hundreds of headshots of every cast member I'd always love to work with. You'll see probably 1,000 photos of people, of locations all over the world that I'd love to go to, hotels, architecture. Some things are just pieces of art or just pretty pictures that I think inspire me.
Yeah.
We write these things. It's really like, obviously I have a museum fetish. I have a symbolism or, iconology fetish. I have like religion fetish.
Yeah.
Love martial arts, motorcycles, muscle cars, obviously, gun fu and firearms. I love to travel. I love deserts, apparently.
Yeah.
I like reflective surfaces between mirrors and glass and architecture. Keanu, between horses and music and stoicism, and a lot of what Keanu is interested in, philosophical debates, is up there. Like existential debates is up there. Like
the
way of dying, the way of living. We have a lot of Zen or Asian philosophy influences in it. I mean, they're all things that we dig. Like, where do you want to shoot? Let's go. Well, Berlin's got this cool underground, and we both love Paris like crazy, and we got this strange adherence to David Lean's Lawrence of Arabia. So we're like, we're gonna go shoot. We're going to Aqaba.
I love that. I thank you for that, by the way. That was amazing.
Not everybody will get it, but we know blowing out the match. That's people. Yeah. Going back to David Lean.
Yeah.
So in answer to your question, it's a bit of a riff, but it's a riff between two or three people that I think do what you know, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know if I could ever do a musical or romantic comedy, but I know if I put up what I love and Keanu puts up what he loves, and we love shooting what we shoot, shooting where we shoot, shooting how we love to see things, hopefully other people will love it too. So that's our true north. Just look good in back of you. If I took one little note or scene or cue or visual from every one of those posters behind you, I really love it. It's going to be kind of fun. Like, it'll give you that one little edge in the audience. Like, I love what Wicky's doing. But, oh, was that a Dr. No reference? Like, well, obviously the Mustang is a bullet thing. So you already got the bullet reference going.
Yeah.
Somebody else is like me. Somebody else likes the same stuff I do. Someone else appreciates the little details from 30 years ago. So like that's kind of how we do that.
Before I have to start wrapping up here, I have a couple questions for you. One, I know so much of these films, specifically this one, is dealing with John's relationship with, his cohorts, his brothers, everyone around him that's in this kind of space. And I think what's so great about it is like the third film is him like cashing in on all the goodwill of that he's kind of amassed over the years. And this movie, now he has to deal with like the consequences of doing that. And he's this like, everyone can like throw their vengeance onto him, and he's going to go like, take it out on people. So I guess my question to you is John Wick a good friend? If
you ask one of his friends, if you ask Kane, that'd be kind of no.
Okay.
And if you asked Hiroyuki, Hiro would say yes, even though it caused his own death. I think it's perspective on friendship. There's a little ode to a lot of people in our real lives out there. And there's a couple messages in there from some of the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
We purposely wrote Hiroyuki's line, friendship means little when it's convenient.
Right.
That's a little shout out to somebody that needs to remember that more, I think.
Okay.
So that's a good test of friendship. Like, how much do they help you, or how much are they there for you when it's inconvenient for them?
Yeah.
How selfless can you really be? So I think that's a real test. So I mean, it's hard to make a movie about consequence when you don't show any consequences.
Yeah. Right.
So I guess in answer to your question, in some ways, John will die for you. In other ways, he becomes so wrapped up in his own world. That's what I think that's what's really interesting is no. A lot of times he's not a very good friend in the way that most people, but like friendship is always complicated. It's, how do you live your own life, follow your own path and not inconvenience anybody?
Sure.
Or how do you be so selfless that you inconvenience yourself? So there's always a balance.
I do want to leave you with this. So I know, speaking of conversations, I think this is actually an important conversation that needs to be happening in your industry, specifically about stunt performance and recognition on like a big stage.
Right.
I feel like it's largely overlooked in the industry, and the recognition is often reserved for A-list performers doing their own stunts. But when you and what you and your team have done with these films, it really shines a spotlight on this and, the work. And then you have someone like Keanu, who obviously does a lot of his own work, but he is the first to kind of like admit that he couldn't have done it alone. He's always pushing for the rest of you guys. So, I mean, you've pushed for the wider industry to catch up. You've been lobbying for stunt ensembles to be added to the Academy Awards. I mean, my God, they're in SAG now. So you would think that the Oscars would be the next step. I guess like what is the path to getting that done? I don't know I've been in stunts for 35 years. I don't know a single stunt person's ever talked to anyone on the Academy, and I don't know a single Academy person's ever talked to anybody in stunts officially. Right.
So, okay, what does that tell you?
Yeah.
We don't know whether or not they think stunts should be in the Oscars, and they don't know whether or not it's all just hearsay, right? Like, right. So what do you say we all sit down and have a real chat? I think honestly, if I could get together with the Academy today and we could all sit down, I don't think I'd find a single person that would argue, or at least have a solid argument why stunts aren't in the Oscars. I just think no one's had the talk. I mean, somehow we keep missing each other. Like no one's
right.
Hey, like I would just volunteer. Like, well, if no, I'll volunteer. I'll be the spokesperson. I'll sit down. I'll talk. I mean, we're one of the main 10 to 11, depending on the departments. We're one of the main. We're in every movie. Of course. Yeah, deserve has nothing to do with it. If you're gonna be an Academy, a motion pictures Academy Award, we're part of the motion picture. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's no argument there. It's completely an asshole. Like, there's no argument. So the question is how. Like, stunts work a little differently than most departments. So we have the guy or the woman, the individual doing the stunt. We have the stunt coordinator. We have a choreographer. We have the stunt riggers. We have a lot of sub departments within our department. So the real conversation is, okay, we know stunts deserves an Oscar, but okay, how do we do it? Is it the performer? Is it thing? Is it an ensemble award? Like, is it a technical achievement thing? Is it a performance thing, or is it a concept thing?
Yeah.
Like, and I don't really have the answer, but I'm willing to sit down with some other smart people and maybe try to figure it out. The tagline I would give you is it's time. It's time to have the talk.
Well, especially when you're getting films like last year with Top Gun being so lauded for everything, that being like a huge deal, right? Movies like John Wick that are like just on a complete other level in terms of choreography and action, and then even like stuff like in Everything Everywhere, right? With everything that Key is doing and Michelle, and it's like they're gonna be incredible.
Michelle's a huge action star. It is a choreography team that story does not exist without action. So,
right.
I mean, when you have Wakanda for Best Picture, you have Top Gun for Best Picture, you have Way of Water for Best Picture. I mean, whether or not like most of your physical comedy movies are action movies, like musicals have action, with The Wire, with The Flying, like La La Land, or like a Christopher Nolan, Batman's, or Inception. Those are all stunt intensive films, even though they don't come across as a main action movie. Yeah. So it's absolutely ridiculous from both sides, from the stunt side and the Academy side, that this hasn't been talked about. I mean, it's just myopic vision where no one's actually made the effort to go. So now it's just time. Like, the gauntlet's down. I'm throwing it out there with every outlet I can. Hopefully John Wick can do a little bit more than have a good box office and some reviews. Maybe we can move the needle a little bit and help get recognition for the stunt community that I think has been a very major part of the industry for over 100 years. So there's one good thing I think we could do. Maybe it's get attention to this and get some people sitting at a table and figure this out.
Yeah, God, I hope so, honestly. And especially for a movie like this, it's not just, I mean, like stunts is a big thing, but like your cinematography, your music, your like the editing. I mean, it's it's so precise and lyrical. And you're able to do all of this storytelling through, again, what we've been talking about since the beginning, through the action. That doesn't make it any less valid. Look, I am out of time, but thank you so much. I really appreciate this. I genuinely, I walked to the theater saying this, and this is one of the greatest action movies I've ever seen. It just genuinely floored me to no end.
That's very nice of you to say. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Appreciate your time.